Welcome to EBS Video and Swap, Great Minds. My name is Rutger Bregman. I'm a Dutch historian, and it's time for the final part of this series of mini lectures. And in this small lecture, I like to talk about one of the most important questions you can ask as a historian. And the question is this: what will the historians of the future say about us? It's fairly easy for us to look back on, say, the Middle Ages or the 18th and the 19th century and condemn all the atrocities that we committed. Think about the burning of witches, which still happened up until the 17th century even. Or think of slavery, which has been one of the most common institutions in this period of history that we call the civilized period. And if you would have stood on a corner of a street in the year 1750 and you would have said, we should abolish slavery, 9 out of 10 people would have said, well, you're crazy. That's never going to happen. Maybe the 10th person would say, you know, I agree with you in principle, but look, practically, it's probably not going to happen. What you going to do, right? The slave trade lobby is so influential and it's been with us since forever. Surely we can't change slavery. So for us today, as I said, it's relatively easy to condemn those people in the 18th century, the vast majority who just took slavery for granted. But then the question is, I think, how will the historians of the future look back on us? I mean, everyone is now aware of the threat of climate change and how we're completely wrecking the planet. And I'm quite sure that, you know, our grandchildren will be quite shocked by how little still we do against that challenge. We have things like the extinction of species, right? We are endangering biodiversity, and biodiversity is declining very rapidly. These are quite obvious examples. But maybe they'll also look at other things, such as the way we treat animals, which in my view is one of the greatest crimes that we commit today. If you just look at the numbers, it's really, really overwhelming. So one estimate is that we slaughter around 80 billion animals every year. And the thing is that in the last, I would say 10 to 20 years, more and more findings are coming in from biology that show that these animals are not so different from us. You know, if you think about typical human capacities such as empathy, compassion, it seems to be the case that many of those animals have those abilities as well, maybe in rudimentary form, maybe, you know, not so sophisticated as an adult human being. And the most important question we got to ask here is, do they have the capacity to suffer? That's something Jeremy Bentham, one of the most famous philosophers in the 18th century, said, that it doesn't really matter whether animals can talk, whether they can reason or whatever, whether they're like us in that respect. No, what really matters if they can suffer like us. There's overwhelming evidence that they can, that they suffer tremendously in this system that we call factory farming today. It's just torture on an industrial scale. Now, many of us, I think we sort of know, right? We implicitly, we know, we are aware. Most of us wouldn't want to see a video of the pig that we're about to eat. Most of us wouldn't want to see a video of the cow that, you know, we just have a nice steak of. We don't want to be reminded of that reality, so we sort of know. But as I said, awareness is overrated. Awareness is not enough. In the Netherlands, for example, 60% of people want to abolish factory farming, but only 1% of people are vegan and like 2 or 3% are vegetarian and have stopped eating meat. So that's still a very small, tiny minority. Just as Thomas Clarkson and William Wilberforce in the 18th century were part of a very small and tiny minority of abolitionists. And maybe I'm wrong, could be true, but my prediction is that our grandchildren will be horrified by the behavior of most of us, that we just continue doing something that we sort of know is wrong. and we could stop it. I mean, there are now more than enough alternatives. That is, again, one of those questions that may make you uncomfortable, but that also makes history one of the most subversive and radical of all the scientific disciplines. Because history is in the end all about this simple recognition that things can be different. There's nothing inevitable about the way we've structured our economy and society right now. It can all change, right? There's nothing definitive about it. And what I'm interested in is the kind of people who make that change, who are willing to fight for that. Now, I'm not saying that I know a quick solution to all of this. Obviously, that's not how history works. Progress is always an incremental, gradual thing. But it's very important to always be aware of what should be our next destination. Every milestone of civilization was once a utopian fantasy. The end of slavery, democracy, equal rights for men and women. The people who first advocated for those ideas were dismissed as lunatics, as idiots, or even terrorists. So the question that we face today is, what should be the utopias of the future? What should we be dreaming about today? Thank you.